Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today we've reached the last role that we're going to be taking a look at in terms of changes coming in Endwalker, our casters. Let's start things off with Black Mage. This job has pretty much only gotten better over the years. I enjoyed it in Stormblood, but I felt like it was missing some stuff. Then Shadowbringers added a lot of quality of life to the job with Xenoglossy and the changes to switching between fire and ice. And in Endwalker, we're again seeing a lot of nice additions that will make the job even better. So as someone that has slowly but surely become a very big fan of the job, I am excited. So what's new? Well, there's quite a few things actually. Let's begin with our single target spells. So over here, not a crazy amount of changes, but one change that adds a lot of quality of life to the job. Paradox is a new skill that we can use in both fire and ice, but we require the paradox buff in order to cast it. To get this buff, we either need to go from fire to ice, quite simple, or go from ice to fire while also having 3 Umbral Heart stacks. The spell itself will change its secondary effect depending on what stance we're in. While we're in Astral Fire, the change will replace Fire 1 on your hotbar, it will deal damage and have a chance to grant you the Fire Starter proc and refresh the duration of Astral Fire, so kinda like Fire 1 does right now. When used under Umbral Ice, it will replace the Ice spell and refresh the duration of Umbral Ice. So this has a few implications. First off, for the ice phase, this is amazing, as sometimes you wouldn't have enough GCDs to fit in there if you got unlucky with MP ticks. You can end up going into your fire phase without enough mana for a full fire rotation, so this should take care of that. Secondly, it just felt kinda weird having to use Fire 1 just so that you can refresh your Astral Fire buff. However, the addition of this will also mean that the rotation will be more standardized, if that's even a word. Right now there's the no Fire 1 rotation, or a rotation where you skip Blizzard 4, and a lot of other tiny optimizations that you can do, but with Paradox now being a spell that you'll most likely want to use every fire and ice phase, that kinda gets thrown out of the window, or at least I'm expecting that to happen. But because I never really went super in-depth into Black Mage optimization, it won't really have a big effect on me. Moving on, Sharpcast now has 2 charges, so you can save one for where you need a proc for movement, big fan of this. Foul has also been made an instant cast spell when we learn Xenoglossy, so both making them instant cast is quite nice. And then we also have Amplifier, which is an off-global cooldown ability that grants you a polyglot stack. So that is it for single target, but our AoE rotation also got quite the upgrade, both at high level, but also at lower levels. So Fire 2 and Blizzard 2 now grant full stacks of Astral Fire and Umbral Ice when using them to switch between the 2 stances. So exactly like we use Fire 3 and Blizzard 3 to switch during our single target rotation. At later levels, both of these spells will be upgraded to High Fire 2 and High Blizzard 2. Fire version will also grant you a stack of Enhanced Flare when used underneath the Astral Fire buff, and this can stack up to 2 times. So because you'll now use these 2 spells to switch stances, Freeze is now basically your AoE Blizzard 4, as you can only use it during Umbral Ice, and it now gives you 3 Umbral Heart stacks as well instead of the 1. So that does mean that you won't be able to use Freeze anymore as a recovery tool whenever you drop your buffs like you would do right now. Oh, also something I forgot to mention is that Enochian is now a trait. You don't need to press the button anymore to get the buff going, which is quite good because it was just something that you would press in the opener and then you'd kind of forget about it. You'll still need to be inside either fire or ice to get the effects though, so nothing changes over there, it's just one less button to press. So our AoE will probably look something like this. We use Blizzard 2 to get into ice, apply your Thunder Dot, maybe use a Polyglot stack on Foul, and then use Freeze to get your Umbral Hearts. Then we use Fire 2 to go into Astral Fire, another 2 Fire 2s to get those 2 Flare stacks, because you only get those while the Astral Fire buff is active, so that's why we use it 3 times, and then we can finish it off with 2 Flares, Rinse, and Repeat. So quite a lot different from what we've got going on right now, but a welcome change, because I wasn't a huge fan of the current AoE rotation for Black Mage, as this seems to be a lot more interesting. So those are the important changes to Black Mage. Overall, great changes. Really excited to try them all out because, as I said before, the job has only been getting better over the years. Moving on to Red Mage. This one also got a fair amount of changes, but most of them are quality of life changes. The core feel of the job has remained, which is a good thing because I've always felt like Red Mage is an incredibly good feeling job ever since it came out, and I've always wanted them to stay close to that feeling, which they are definitely doing. So what's different? Well, mana generation has been changed so that it's now slower to generate a full black and white mana gauge. However, your mana spenders have now also been made cheaper. This is good because there were some scenarios where your mana gauges were full, but you wouldn't be able to get close to the boss because mechanics were happening, and then you would just be sitting at a full mana gauge, which felt kind of bad. So having more time before your gauge is full is going to help with this problem quite a lot. Another change is that you'll now need 3 mana stacks to use your finishers. Mana stacks are required by doing enhanced melee attacks. So for single target this won't change anything because you have a 1-2-3 melee combo, but this is a very big change for your AoE because now you can use Moulinet 3 times and then you can also use your finishers as well, which by the way, they've all been made AoE spells. So that's a very big quality of life change in terms of your AoE. Speaking of finishers, we've been given another one. This is just a combo action of Scorch, so you'll do your 3 melee attacks, follow it up with Flare or Holy, then Scorch, and then Resolution, which is that new spell. Our single target Thunder and Arrow spells have also been granted an upgraded version, but nothing that changes in the way that they interact with our rotation, just some more damage and a new animation. Korakor and Displacement have also been granted 2 charges, so there's more leniency in when you want to use them, and Displacement and Engagement now also have the same potency. So I guess the only real reason why you'd want to use Displacement now is to look stylish AF when dodging out of an AoE, or to just use it for movement, but outside of the movement ability, there's no real reason to use this now over Engagement. The reason why they've been given 2 stacks is because Manification has also been changed. Now grants you 50 mana, so no longer doubles your mana gauges, just gives you a flat 50, which is enough for a fully enhanced single target melee combo. Also grants you 1 stack of Korakor and Displacement, and then also grants you 6 stacks of Manification, which increase your damage dealt. So basically, you use Manification, then you use those 6 stacks on your 3 melee skills and your 3 finishers. Embolden has also finally gotten the quality of life change that everyone has wanted since the introduction of Red Mage, which is that it now buffs all damage for the party and not just physical damage. Still has a damage drop of effect that it has now though. Acceleration has also been granted a 2nd stack, so it's going to be even easier to guarantee your procs. And then we also have 1 new ability, which is Magic Barrier. This reduces magic damage taken for the whole party, while also granting a healing buff effect. All of these changes are welcome additions to Red Mage, a lot of quality of life added to the job, and is now an even better team player as well. It already had the res, the raid buff has been made better, its heals can still be clutch in case both of your healers end up dropping, and we now have another source of raid mitigation as well, in the form of Magic Barrier. So Red Mage already was one of the best jobs to bring to prog, and I think it now solidifies its spot as the best casters to bring for prog. Of course, it's not to say that you can't take the other 2 casters, because Summoner still has its res as well, but I just think that Red Mage is too good to pass up on right now, especially when looking at proc scenarios. And then we have our new job, Summoner. And yes, I'm saying new job as it's pretty much the 3rd job that we're getting in Endwalker. It's a complete rework and it looks like they did a fantastic job with it. So where to begin? Well, seems that Summoner will stay close to its mobile caster identity that it has gotten in Shadowbringers. Ruin 2 has been made into a lower level version of Ruin 3, but the cast time on all of your Ruin spells has been made shorter, so it'll function the same as our healer DPS spells will do in Endwalker. Ruin 4 is still the same as right now, but you'll have to use Energy Drain or Energy Siphon to get the buff that allows you to use Ruin 4, and you'll also only get 1 of these per minute. As for our Aetherflow skills, those are still the same, Pain Flare for AoE, Faster for single target. Because the dots have been completely removed from the job, Try Disaster has now been made into the higher level version of Outburst, your AoE spell. So those are our basic spells, but we'll spend most of our time interacting with our summons. At low levels, these will be the different versions of our Carbuncle, and at higher levels, these will be Ifrit, Garuda, and Titan. But even at a high level, our Carbuncle will still have 2 abilities that they can use. Radiant Aegis generates a personal shield for you, has 2 charges, and Searing Light is your raid buff. This is basically the new devotion. Do keep in mind that your Carbuncle needs to be summoned to execute these abilities, so you can't use them while any of your 5 other summons are out. So the summoning cycle works as follows. You summon one of your big summons, aka Bahamut or Phoenix, and after they leave the field you get 3 gems on your job gauge. each gem corresponding to a primal. And then you can choose which primal to summon first, and then you rotate through all 3, after which you can summon Phoenix. Again, after Phoenix is gone, you get 3 gems, and then we repeat the cycle. So what has changed during the summons? Let's first look at Bahamut and Phoenix together, as they're both very similar now. Your Summon Bahamut or Summon Phoenix button has now been made a global cooldown, and I think this is mainly to prevent the loss of auto attacks coming from your summons, as that was quite a problem throughout all of Stormblood and Shadowbringers. Your summon now also stays in place after they start attacking a target, so no need to worry about losing even more autos, because they just keep chasing you around the map. So while Bahamut or Phoenix are on the field, your Ruin 3 and Try Disaster will change into primal skills, both of which are instant cast spells, one for single target, one for AoE. One thing to note as well is that Fountain of Fire and Brand of Purgatory for Phoenix do not combo into each other anymore, so it's purely a choice between single target and AoE now. There's also a new spell called Astral Flow, which will have a different effect depending on which of your 5 summons is active on the field. When we have Bahamut out, this will become Death Flare, which still functions like we know it now, just an off-global cooldown AoE ability. And for Phoenix, this will be a single target heal that will also grant the Rekindle buff to the target. Whenever you drop below 50% HP, or when the buff ends, this will proc and grant you a healing over time effect. So you can kind of compare this to a region over time version of Scholar's Excog. Phoenix also still has Everlasting Flight, which is the AoE region you get whenever you summon Phoenix. Outside of that, we still have Enkindle, which makes Bahamut cast Akmorn and Phoenix use Revelation, so no changes there, and then both of them also still auto-attack the target that you are attacking. So those are our 2 big summons out of the way. Between summoning these 2, we can choose how we want to rotate through our 3 primals. And the reason why you might want to change which primal you summon when is because of the effects that they give. Garuda and Titan are fairly mobile, for example, but Ifrit is very immobile, so you'll want to choose the right primal depending on if you have to move a lot or not. So just like Astral Flow, we have 2 more spells that will change depending on your summoned primal. Gemshine for single target and Precious Brilliance for AoE. So to start off our summoning, we'll have to press the Summon Ifrit, Titan or Garuda spell, which is a global cooldown and deals AoE damage. And then our Gemshine will change into a Rite spell, while our Precious Brilliance changes into Catastrophe. They still keep the same purpose though, being single target or AoE. And then our Astral Flow will also change. So, summoning Ifrit will grant us 2 stacks of Fire Attunement and 1 stack of Ifrit's Favor. Attunement can be spent on Ruby Rite for single target or Ruby Catastrophe for AoE. Both of these have a very long cast time. Astral Flow will change into Crimson Cyclone, which is an AoE GCD that is a gap closer that combos into Crimson Strike, and this is where we will spend our Ifrit's Favor stack on. When we summon Titan, we will again deal AoE damage, and then we are granted 4 stacks of Earth Attunement. Same like with Ifrit, we can spend these on Topek's Rite for single target or Topaz Catastrophe for AoE. And then whenever we use one of these, we'll also be granted a stack of Titan's Favor, which will allow us to use Mountain Buster, which is what Astral Flow changes into when Titan is out. And this is an off-global cooldown AoE ability. Your Titan's Favor stacks also need to be used immediately, so it's kind of like Gunbreaker's continuation. You press the Rite or Catastrophe GCD, and then you follow it up with a Mountain Buster. And then we have Garuda. Again, just like the others, we'll deal AoE damage when we summon her, and then we get 4 stacks of Wind Attunement and 1 stack of Garuda's Favor. Wind Attunement can again be spent on the Rite or Catastrophe spells, while Garuda's Favor can be spent on Slipstream, which is our Astral Flow spell. This is a global cooldown that deals AoE damage and also leaves behind a damage over time field. And with that, I think I covered just about everything that our new summoner has to offer. I'm pleased to see that it's now an actual summoner and not a Ruin Mage with dot management that would occasionally summon Bahamut or Phoenix. I know the carbuncle was there, but there was no real meaningful interactions with it. This update seems to change all of that though, and while it looked complex when I was first taking a look at the job, I feel like after looking at it for a while, it's not as complex as I first thought it would be. Kinda like my first impressions of Reaper, I guess. But the job seems a lot of fun, so it'll definitely see some play from me. Anyways, that rounds out the videos on the Media Tour job changes. I'm not sure if I'm going to be making many more Media Tour related videos, but if there is something that you want to ask me about, or if you have any video suggestions, then you're always free to leave them in the comment section down below. But that's going to do it for me, so I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.